Good morning, everyone, and welcome to Rose Red Homestead. We are so grateful that you choose to watch our videos. It really means a lot to us, and we hope that you find our information useful to you. Today, we're going to be talking about something that we think is very useful, very critical, especially for the time of year that we are heading into, meaning winter and freezing weather. We've already had a number of nights with hard freezes, and our temperatures here can range as much as 50 degrees difference between nighttime and daytime temperatures. So we have quite a broad fluctuation, and we're up in the high 40s or low 50s, and then at night we're in the 20s and 30s. And so that's our range, and a temperature range is important for the things that we're going to be considering, because where you live is probably quite different than where we live. And so the things that we are going to share are going to be based on what works for us at our elevation and with our weather and with all of the variables that are specific to our living situation, knowing that you may need to make some adjustments for your own living situation. So we're going to talk today about keeping warm in the wintertime. Now, we've already done one video on emergency heating and lighting. It's one of our early videos, so the quality is not up to what the quality is now that we are doing, but the information is still very pertinent, except for one segment that talks. I'll show a little square box in that video and talk about a solar storage unit. It's, I think, a different brand than Bluetti. I think it's a Yeti Gold One or something. Disregard that segment completely, because we now use Bluettis, and I'm going to be showing one of our Bluettis today. In fact, it's right here. This is our 180. And this is an 18-watt storage unit. It's a solar storage unit, and it will run 1,150 watt hours. And what that means is, for instance, that if we plug something in that is pulling 50 watts, we will divide that 50 into the 1152 watt hours and come up with about 23 hours. Or if it's pulling 100 watts, then it will last 11 and a half hours before this is completely drained of power. Now, we can recharge this two ways: by plugging it into an electrical outlet, or of course by solar. So this is one of our very important, that we believe it's one of our very important off-grid options, and we believe in redundancy systems, and this is one of our power sources when the grid might go down. I just checked this one this morning. I cannot believe the price on this. We paid about $1,000 for this a year ago. It is on sale for a limited time right now for $499. That's even cheaper than it was when we did our recent video on how we use our Bluettis. So I'm going to link two videos to the end of this video. One is to the video that I just mentioned on how we use our Bluettis. I would recommend that you review the emergency heating and lighting, because this video depends on you knowing some of that information. So a couple of weeks ago, my sister Camille called me, and she is moving back into the home that she shared with her husband before he passed away several years ago. So she's alone in that home. She's doing a fantastic job getting herself prepared for emergencies, and she has all of her life. She has the food situation just absolutely nailed. But she is now concerned with other things, like, and she just is moving up from Las Vegas, which has a very different climate, to where she's going to be moving in central Utah. And so she's concerned about staying warm in the wintertime. And her home has wood-burning stove that will put out heat that warms the front part of the house, but the heat doesn't go back to her bedroom. So we talked about a few options, and it set me to really wondering about how can we stay warm in the winter, whether the grid is up or the grid is down. Now, in terms of preparedness, we want to, of course, be prepared for if the grid goes down. Hopefully, the grid will stay up all winter for all of us and we'll be just fine. If that is the case, then what we have to say today is going to be important in one way. And then if the grid goes down, what we have to say today is going to be important in another way. So either way, we're going to cover whether the grid is up or down. We all need, just as a reminder, to stock up on quilts, on sleeping bags, on clothing layers, hats, gloves that we can wear inside the house if things get really bad for us. And they might. Who knows what's going to happen? None of us really knows. But we recognize that there is such a great feeling of satisfaction and comfort knowing that we are prepared for various situations. Now, we're going to start with assuming that the grid is up. So all of us will have access to the furnace that our homes or apartments have. So I want to chat just for a moment about how our furnaces operate, whether they are powered by electricity or fossil fuel. Our furnace is propane, but all of them will have an electric blower. The way furnaces generally work is that there is a heating element that heats a bunch of air in the furnace, and then the fan pushes that air out into our homes, and it comes out through the heat registers, whether they're on the floor or in the ceiling. Ours are all on the floor. So the air blows out of the registers, hot air rises. Most of it has ceiling fans that when the air gets up there and it's warm air, the ceiling fans will push that air down, it will cool, and then it heats up again. And so these convection currents are produced where hot air rises, cold air falls, it heats up, and those are all over our house. How efficient is that in your home? Well, I can tell you in our home that it is not all that efficient. Convection is one way of heat transfer, but it's not altogether perfect. And probably your house may be like ours. We have cold spots. One of the biggest cold spots in the house is Jim's office. And for the years that we have lived in this house and counted on the furnace for heating, sometimes he comes out of that office after working in there several hours and his hands are just like ice cubes. And I did a very interesting thing over the last 3 days. I took our little infrared thermometer gun and went through the house at various times of day and shot the temperature. Right now, I'm shooting the wall over there, which is 70 degrees. My countertop is 70. Our kitchen, once it warms up in the morning, it starts out at about 67 and it warms up to 70 and stays 70 most of the day because we have a southern exposure where sunlight streams in and helps keep things warm, so that's good. But I went all over the house and shot the temperature of ceiling and floors with carpets, with tile, of couches, of our bed, of windows, of doors. And I now know where the coldest spots in the house are, windows and doors. And so there are some things that we can do. That's not the topic of this video, but we did talk about that just a little bit in our video that I have recommended. Managing cold spots with space heaters is a pretty good thing to do. And especially if those space heaters are fuel efficient and don't draw, for instance, too much electricity. We have a couple of choices when we think about space heaters. They can be powered either by fossil fuel or by electricity. Now with fossil fuels, and we talk about one in our other video, we have a Mr. Heater that we use, it takes propane. But anything that takes fossil fuel consumes oxygen. And so as oxygen is consumed by the fossil fuel heaters, we have to leave a window open or a vent open to the outside air so that oxygen can be replenished and it doesn't kill us. The other thing that happens with that is that it dries out the air inside the house. It takes the moisture out of the air. With the fossil fuel heaters, like the Mr. Heater that we have recommended, there's no fan, and so the heat is dispersed through radiation. It radiates out in heat waves, so to speak, and then gradually fills up the space with heat. And as it heats other objects in the room, those objects then also radiate heat. So that's kind of how heat works. Now, fossil fuel space heaters are the very best for off-grid. But Jim and I do not want anything with an open flame or even a concealed open flame as a space heater in our homes. We don't like the oxygen consumption. We don't like to have that possibility. Now, space heaters come loaded with safety features. They shut off if they tipped over. They shut off if they get too hot. Most all space heaters will have those safety features. And if you're going to buy one, make sure that the one you select has those. The other type of space heater is electric. And while electric has limited off-grid use, we can still use them if the grid goes down. We just have to make some concessions. You know, if the grid does go down, we just have to face the fact that life is going to change for us. And we will need to make some concessions. Things are not going to be quite as comfortable. We'll have to work harder to make things comfortable for us. And we just need to prepare to do that and recognize that that's going to be it. And so, no big deal. We can handle it. Now, with electric, we can have a convection heater, which is like a mini furnace. It has a heating element. The one I'm going to show you is, well, in fact, here it is right here. It's like a little mini furnace. It has a ceramic heating element. You plug it into the wall, and I'm going to do that. It has fan speeds, and you have instant heat blowing right at you. This was a great, turn this off. This was a great little heater that I put under my desk at the university. My office was freezing cold, and my feet were icicles all the time until I got this little heater. It oscillates back and forth. It's under $30 on Amazon, and it runs all the time. I mean, it does have a little thermostat that is high, low, medium, as much of a thermostat is, or maximum, minimum heat on this one. And so that was a little bit, it did kick off and on sometimes, but it pulled a lot of electricity. These would have a very difficult time heating up a room. It is rated at 1,500 watts, and we're going to plug it into the Bluetti here in just a second to see how much it does pull. But these are okay. If we would have chosen to use this in Jim's office, it would have really increased our electric bill because it would have to run all the time to heat up the air in that room hot enough to keep Jim warm, and his hands still would have been cold. So we're going to do a little check with it right now on our Bluetti. All right, so right now I have the fan on low and the heat in the maximum range, and it is pulling about 900 watts. So this Bluetti would power this for about an hour because it just goes strong all the time. And this is not going to cycle off anytime soon to overcome the amount of air that it has to heat in this area of our house. So I'm going to turn this off. All right, this is the second space heater that we're going to present today. And I can just tell you right up front, Jim and I love this one so much that we bought a second one. It just does a phenomenal job. It is a Dr. Heater infrared portable space heater. It uses dual heat because it uses infrared as well as a little bit of convection, and I'll explain that to you. I want to take a little minute here and explain to you how infrared works. Infrared energy waves are part of the electromagnetic spectrum. Also on the spectrum are things like radio waves, microwaves, X-rays, gamma rays. All of those waves are on the electromagnetic spectrum, and they are divided by how long the wavelength is and how much energy they carry. Infrared waves carry a moderate amount of energy, and once they strike an object, they will excite the atoms, and once atoms are excited, or in other words, they move, that generates heat. The heat is not generated until the wave strikes that object. And so infrared can go through the air without heating the air, but once it touches an object, it will warm that object, including our human bodies. Our bodies absorb infrared energy waves. That's what makes us warm. We also give off infrared. We walk into a cold room and we start feeling cold. That is because our body is releasing infrared out toward heat transfer. Always goes from the warmest to the coldest. It moves in that direction. When in the wintertime it's very cold outside, we open up a door and leave that door open, the heat moves outside because that's the way heat transfers. This infrared heating situation has been around for a really, really long time. It was overshadowed back when fossil fuels were so inexpensive. But they are now coming back because now infrared is much cheaper. It's 100% energy efficient. So what happens with this little heater is on the inside, it has a quartz heating element that emits infrared energy waves. Those energy waves go through the air without heating the air, but once it touches a wall, it goes out and then those waves expand. And once it hits the wall, the ceiling, the floor, the bed, the couch, the table, whatever, the person, then those things start heating up. And once they heat up, then they radiate the heat into the room that warms the air. And so it is a very efficient way to heat. It is a little bit slower to get everything warmed up than compared to the ceramic heater that I just showed you. But this is an amazing little heater. So I'm going to show you how it works when it's plugged into the wall. It also has a remote control, which makes it very nice. I can operate it from the bed. And so it goes on. Okay, so the room temperature is 70. If I want this to go on, I have to increase the thermostat here. So I've hit it up to 75. I would never heat our house at 75. That's way too much, but for demonstration purposes, this is nice. You probably heard the fan just kick on. It is giving out a little bit of warm air. Now, the reason that it is giving out warm air is because the quartz heating element also gets hot, and that air collects on the inside and has to be expelled. So it might as well be expelled out into the room. So it uses convection like the ceramic heater does, like our furnaces do. But the big thing that happens is, and you can see the glowing going on right in there, that quartz heating element, that is sending infrared waves directly at Jim right now, and they're spreading out. It's warming that whole wall over there, and pretty soon everything is going to be up to 75 degrees, and this will shut down. So we can get about 60% more heat per the amount of electricity pulled than the ceramic heater, just because the way this is operates. And so it is very fuel efficient. And so if we are to, we might want to run this on the Bluetti. Here's what we have learned to do. I'm going to turn the power off. So now we are going to run it on the Bluetti. So we now have 82% left in this. I'm going to turn this on, and I'm going to set the mode to Eco. Okay, so I lowered the thermostat to 69. It's now just blowing the air. It's pulling 18 watts. If I turn it up to 70, okay, it's pulling now 700, 800. And it will take the whole room up. It will make everything 70 degrees or warmer. And for under 1,000, it's vacillating a little bit between 700 and 800. So at this rate, it will run this going full bore the way it is right now for about an hour. So I'm going to turn this off and talk about this for a little bit. So 60% more heat for the same or less electricity is really very fuel efficient. Now, this is how we are using this in our house right now. At midday, when it's the warmest that it's going to get outside, about 3 or 4 o'clock in the afternoon, we turn our furnace off. Our home is fairly well insulated, and it holds that heat. And when we're ready to go to bed at 10 o'clock, yes, the house has cooled down a little bit. We take this heater into our bedroom, close the door, and set it for 70 degrees. Now, right now, that is optimum sleeping temperature has been determined by research to be 65, but it varies, of course, from person to person. 65 is too cool for us. We like it to be a little bit warmer. But if the grid goes down for long term, we are going to have to make some concessions. So this will run on this full bore. This was down just a little bit. It was down to 80% or so. And this will go full bore at 70 degrees for about an hour and a half. It would be powered. But if we put it down to 65 degrees, it is going to cycle off and on and off and on all during the night. We will probably get up to 4 or 5 hours of power with the Bluetti during the night. Now, 65 degrees is colder than Jim and I would like, but putting extra quilts on our bed, dressing warmly to sleep, that's going to take us just fine. Now, one of the things that has happened when we keep it at 70 during the night, 68 to 70 is what we do. When I wake up in the morning and I take my little infrared temperature gun and shoot all around our room, everything is at 70 degrees. The floor, the ceiling, where the window is, our bed covers. Our bed is now warm throughout. We have a king-size bed, and under the covers, I used to have to avoid the corner of the foot of the bed because it was always cold when the furnace was running. No longer. With infrared, it heats everything. And once it gets everything heated, everything in the room then acts to radiate heat back into the room as well. So we would have enough heat to make it through the night comfortably, even in freezing weather, until the sun comes out the next morning and we can recharge our Bluetti. So we think these are just wonderful. Now, right now they are, we paid $100 for each of ours. We now have 2 of them. We're keeping one in Jim's office. Jim, do you want to come talk about how it is in your office now?
It's on and I'm warm.
Oh, okay.
My hands aren't cold or anything like that.
So it's made a big difference?
It has made a big difference.
And it's also made a big difference with how you sleep.
Yes.
Yeah, both of us are sleeping better with the heat that is all around us. So it has made a big difference. Now, these were $100. They're down right now from $129. And I'm going to put this and all of our Bluettis. We have 4 of these because there are others that are also on sale. I'm going to put them in the product list down below this video so you can check them out if you wish. So we think that these are pretty wonderful heaters, and it's going to make a huge difference, we feel, in our fuel bill, in our propane bill over the winter by shutting down the furnaces mid to late afternoon, and then closing our bedroom door and putting this in as long as we have the grid up. If the grid goes down, we will lower the thermostat here to 65, so it will cycle off and on during the night and give us probably 4 hours of heat, off and on heat, which is enough to keep us from freezing to death during the night. So those are our thoughts on keeping warm in freezing weather, with both grid up and grid down options. So I hope that this has been useful to you. I'm sold on infrared heating and think that it is just phenomenal. In my lifetime, this is the first infrared heater that I have ever used, and I'm just sold. So thanks for being with us, and stay warm in the winter however you need to, and we will be back very soon with more videos.